Hello, and welcome to the Godot community. I am Jody Ann Henry, and I am the Middle School Theater PLC moderator. For today's webinar, I will be discussing using text analysis to inform character development. I'll be sharing with you a series of exercise and lessons and activities that you can use in your classroom to help your students explore character development and characterization, specifically using clues from the text to inform those acting choices. So, the essential question for this lesson or unit is how does an actor, one, analyze a script? And how does an actor use the analysis process to help their performance? How do they use the analysis process to make strong acting choices that demonstrates the character's objective, that shows their personality and relationship to the other character or characters in the scene? So first, my students always ask, why is it important to score the script? Why can't I just get the script and memorize the lines and dive right into the performance? I always respond by saying, scoring the script helps the actors make specific choices in how to portray the character moment to moment on stage. It helps the actor to have a deeper understanding of the emotional life of the character, and it allows them to really sit down and make these specific choices that they can then translate into movement choices and vocal choices that will really communicate the story of the scene. So, first, it's very important for them to understand the character. So, reading through the script several times, paying attention to these key information: who the character is, what is happening in the scene, what is the conflict, what is the relationship between the characters, and what exactly does my character want at the end of the scene. So, as they're reading the script, they pay attention to what is the character's name, how old is the character, is this person from a specific place. I'll ask them to describe the character's personality in 3 words. Describe what this person's voice sounds like. How do they speak? Does this person have a specific accent or a lisp or speak very loudly? They're over articulate. I ask them to describe the character's walk. When you visualize this person, how do you think they move through space? What's their posture like? What is their center? I also ask, what is the character's master gesture? And last question, such as, can you name an animal who your character is most alike? And a part of this beginning process in understanding the character, I sometimes ask my students to create a fake social media page for the character using PowerPoint or a pic collage app that they may have on their phone. So it is very important before they start to dissect the script is really get an understanding of who this character is and to visualize what this person looks like or sound like, and better understand this character's emotional life. Now we're at the scoring the script section. So these are just some vocabulary words that I introduced to the students. These are some key concepts that they must understand in order to score the script. So we discuss what is the goal, what is the objective. This is what your character wants to get from another person in a particular scene or a monologue. What is it that your character wants the other person to do, think, feel, or say at the end of the scene? My students are currently working on duet scenes, and they oftentimes confuse, or oftentimes the goal or the objective that they've identified does not have any bearing or does not go through the other person in the scene. I want to read. I want to sleep. Those are not objectives that connect you to the other person in the scene. Tactic. It's what you do to get the other person to give you what you want. So, what is it that you're actively doing to get what you want? The tactic is oftentimes a verb: to insult, to manipulate, to bribe, to cajole, to threaten. With every beat, your tactic changes. You have a particular goal, which requires you to do certain things to get that goal. And whenever you're not achieving that goal, you then must switch your methods, switch your strategy, switch your tactic in order to achieve your goal. If one thing doesn't work, try something else. Obstacle. What makes it difficult for you to get what you want from the other character? The obstacle can be internal, could be an internal struggle. It could be external, could be the other person in the room. And then beat. I describe this as a pause or a shift in what your character is feeling or thinking about. And this could be a moment of realization or a moment when your character has to try a new tactic. So any shift that happens in the scene, I describe as a beat. These are 4 terms that the students, again, must understand. I sometimes start off by doing an improv activity where I give each student opposing objectives, and they have to work through the scene and try different tactics in order to achieve that. So I want to get my sister to give me $20. I would like to get my sister to leave me alone so I can rest. And they go through the scene, of course, utilizing different tactics to achieve their objective. And then we discuss it as a class, the observations, things that we noticed that each character did, how their body language changed, facial expressions, tone, the movement, were those all in sync in order to get that goal. And we discuss what the obstacles are and really just break down and analyze the improv scene that we watch. So those are just some ways I introduce those concepts. I generally use a Kahoot game at the end of the class to assess students' understanding of these terms before going into actually practicing scoring the script and identifying each of these in a particular script. So here's an example of a scored script from one of my students. It's not complete, but they've identified some of the key parts of a scored script. So they identify the character's goal or objective. I want the customer to leave me alone. They identify the tactic using action verbs: to dismiss, to ignore, to challenge, to help, to condemn, to confront, to correct, to bribe. So those are some examples of tactics. They identify the beat changes throughout the scene, and those are done with the slashes that are here at the end of some of the sentences. They underline the operative words, which are key words that need to be emphasized or really carries the meaning or the emotion that the character is feeling on each line. And they also note movement and gestures that are used. A lot of my students struggle putting the scene on his feet beyond just memorizing the lines, and their body and voice is not as engaged. So I have them identify the operative word and really write down certain movement and gesture suggestions for the line. So once they put it on his feet, they have a starting point to work from. We then discuss characterization. So this is achieved through transformation into another character or person outside of yourself through the use of gesture, speech, movement, and just using the actor's entire instrument. How can I create the physical and emotional life of this character on stage? So, taking all of that analysis and understanding of the character now to make movement choices, to make vocal choices that really demonstrate and embody this character that the playwright has written on paper. And here are 8 keys to characterization. They are internalizing, externalizing, emotional memory, playing the objective, playing the conditions, which the weather, time, place, listening and responding, energy, and uniqueness. Internalizing, it's the actor having a deep understanding of who the character is, how they think, and how they feel, which drives or allows the actor to know how that character would react in any given situation. So, based on the circumstances in the scene, how do you think they would respond? Or even as we begin to explore and get a better understanding of the character, knowing their personality, that actor would have an idea like, based on how I understand my character, I think if they're put in this situation, or if they're experiencing fear, or if they're experiencing anger, this is how they would react. So, really getting in touch with how that person thinks and really having an understanding of their emotional life. The next key to characterization is externalizing, really building the physical form, figuring out the mannerism, how this person moves, how they speak, what are their facial expressions, what's their posture like, how they stand. So, really understanding what that character looks like physically and how you can embody that. So, this is working from the outside in. Then another key to characterization is emotional memory. This is where the actor draws on their own emotional memory and experiences to bring true emotion to that performance. So I'll encourage my actors, for example, if a character is feeling angry, think of a moment where you've felt that emotion. Think about how it felt in your body. How did you express that? And try to bring that emotion to your performance. So you're not just pretending to be angry, but in that moment, you're feeling it and embodying it. The next key to characterization is playing the objectives. So in teaching my students how to score the script, they must identify what's the character's objective. What is it that they want from the other person at the end of the scene? What's the point? What are they trying to accomplish? And what are the tactics that they're trying to use in order to get that objective? And I asked them to focus on that. For young actors, it's very, very difficult for them to really, really grasp that concept. But I try to drive that home. You're not playing the emotions. You're not just angry and you're sad here and you're fearful here. But what is it that you want? And when you know the lines, for one, understand the character, it becomes a little bit easier to play the objective and to find different tactics and ways in which you can play that in your performance. The next key to characterization is playing the conditions. So, a lot of young actors don't think about the setting, what's happening, the time of day, the place. Is it cold where you are? Are there other characters around? And having those conditions affect your performance as well. The next key to characterization is listening and responding. A lot of young actors, they memorize the lines, they've kind of dissected and figure out what emotions your character is feeling, but it's so rehearsed that they're not actively listening to the other person in the scene and responding to what's been given. So if that person shouts at you, what would be the natural response? Not just responding in a way that what you memorized, but really what's that emotional response, what's that physical response that you give to what the other character, the other actor is giving in that scene. Next is bringing energy. You have to be alive. You have to truly embody that character and bring that energy and that projection on stage. That's what's going to also allow the audience to connect with what you are doing on stage. And then uniqueness. Every actor is going to have a different interpretation of the same character, and that is okay. Bring your unique style, bring yourself to that character, and make it your own. So, in preparing the character, I emphasize my students in building the emotional life and building the physical life of the character. So, asking themselves, who is this person? What is it that they want? And how does this character change? In establishing the physical life of the character, we decide and try to figure out, based on clues in the script, what is this person's personality? Figuring out, how do they move? What is their leading center? Do they have a gesture? How do they walk? Looking at how do they speak? Does this person have an accent, a lisp? And then how did this person deal with their emotions? Is it somebody that's very explosive and loud? Is it someone that, holds on to their feelings and then explode at the end? Is it someone that's very emotional where their emotions are on their sleeve? So these are some key things that I ask the actors to have an understanding of and make decisions about these four specific things when they're trying to create the emotional life and the physical life, of the character.